It's my honor to introduce General Clarke and present our Patriot Award. General Clarke commands 70,000 men and women in the U.S. Special Operations Command. And so it's on behalf of all of them that General Clarke is accepting this recognition. SOCOM is responsible for training and equipping all of our nation's Special Operations forces, the SEALs, Delta, Green Beret, Rangers, Air Force Pararescue, Marine Recon, and many other units. I think we all have in our mind an image of all the soldiers stacking up in front of a door about to hit a target, and those type of direct action raids are a large part of what they do, but they do a lot beside that that's not in the public eye, obviously. Integration with air and naval forces, cyber, drones, and black special operations as well. They also deploy continuously to dozens of foreign countries. And of course, SOCOM has had continuous deployment for the last 22 plus years. And even tonight, there are men and women in harm's way. Yeah, let's give them a round of applause, please. So I won't read his bio, you can do that in the program. But General Clarke has served at every level within Special Operations over the last 38 years in uniform, including 4.5 years deployed overseas, which is a tremendous sacrifice for his family to make, and that's very common within SOCOM. He's known as a calm and steady leader with a great touch with the troops and a really unflappable style. So, sir, it's our true pleasure to present you our Patriot Award on behalf of everyone at SOCOM.
Hey, Dave, thanks for those kind words. And I'll tell you, following Colonel Jacobs is a tough act to follow. Let's give Jacobs a bit. Let's give that Medal of Honor winner a round of applause. Hey, Dave and Cynthia, thanks. Thanks for having me here, but more importantly, thanks for what you do for children of the fallen. I am beyond honored, but thank you both. Let's give them a round. I'm really accepting this award on behalf of the 6,000 men and women of the U.S. Special Operations Command that are deployed today. Dave said dozens, but I'll tell you, it's in over 80 countries around the world. They are conducting some of the most sensitive missions, some of the most tough, some of the toughest things you can imagine, and the things that we will never tell you about. And truthfully, it's better. It's good to have secrets as a country every once in a while. But they're representative of the 85,000 men and women who serve in our command. But in particular, for the Gold Star families, those who have suffered so much, and we saw some of the representation of them here tonight. What they've borne on behalf of this nation, that's humbling, and they are the real patriots that we honor this evening. I'm always excited to be back in New York City, a vibrant place. But most of all, I'm thrilled to be here in person for the first time in 3 years that this group has been able to gather, with a group so committed to caring for our Gold Star families, and specifically our Gold Star children. Tonight's event represents a milestone. This past fall, our nation remembered a tragic moment in our history 2 decades ago. The attack of September 11th impacted us all in deep personal ways, especially those who lived and worked here in New York, those in our nation's capitals, and those of us who are serving in uniform. But out of that devastation, I would say a new spirit awakened, and it was not one that the attackers expected. Out of tragedy, a generation answered a call to serve, like the many brave generations that had come before them. They served with exceptional selflessness and courage all over the globe, and they continue to do so as we sit here tonight. Today, they're serving amid one of the most consequential moments in recent history. Our nation is facing challenges unlike since anything we've faced that I believe since the Cuban Missile Crisis, 60 years ago this year. But answering that call for the last 2 decades, and even today, has not come without cost, both on the battlefields and right here at home in New York City. None have been touched by that toll as directly as our Gold Star families. They know sacrifice, they know loss, but as we saw the kids here tonight, they also know courage. Tonight is really about answering that call here at home, to care for these Gold Star children and their families who have sacrificed so profoundly for our nation. Their lives were dramatically changed, but new doors have opened through education, through opportunities created by patriots here at home. Opening the doors to education can light a fire for our Gold Star children. It can never replace a loving mother or father, but it can be a source of inspiration and an amazing relief. Tonight, I'll share 2 stories of warriors from our Special Operations community and their amazing families. And at the end of that, I'll leave you with a challenge. The first warrior, Army Sergeant Major Ryan Sartor. He was serving as an Army Green Beret. He was on his 7th tour overseas. On a sweltering, dusty, moonlit night in northern Afghanistan, machine gun fire pierced the air. Ryan's position on a village rooftop had come under close attack, and he was at close range fires. Despite his teammates' courageous efforts to repel the attack, Ryan suffered fatal wounds that evening. Ryan had suffered hundreds of combat missions, and he endured them. And over 20 years in uniform in Iraq, in Afghanistan, and across the globe. Even that night, as a senior company sergeant major, he was responsible for about 100 Green Berets. He didn't have to be on that mission. He had gone down 1 level to be with the troops and check on the troops. But he was still on the ground. He was leading and he was guiding his fellow Green Berets alongside that Special Forces Alpha team. But he inspired others by being there, sharing hardship with those under his command. But that one mission changed his family's life forever. Ryan was one of the most senior and the most seasoned special operators to lose his life. And it was in the final months of our nation's longest war. His fellow Green Berets considered him to be exceptional. He was easy to like. He was culturally astute. And he was superb at working alongside foreign forces, exactly what we expect our Green Berets to do. His lifetime of service defending our nation was so extraordinary that last month, we inducted Ryan into our SOCOM Commando Hall of Honor. We only pick 5 per year. A distinction that is only reserved for those who have left a legendary impact on our Special Operations community. Ryan was a warrior on the battlefield, but more importantly, he was a dedicated father and a husband at home. That night in 2019 changed forever the life of his wife, Deanna, and their 3 school-aged children. Ryan had been intimately involved in his children's lives. He cherished helping coach his oldest son Strider's high school football team. And even when stationed in Germany, it was Ryan who volunteered his time on the sidelines, coaching his son and the other young players, investing in their lives. Ryan's teammates knew him as an amazing Green Beret. But to his kids, they knew him as an amazing dad. When his son Strider, son of a proud Texan, started looking at colleges after losing his father, where do you think he ended up? As an Aggie at West Texas A&M, and he's going to Texas A&M after the first year. Ryan never got to see Strider across the stage at his high school graduation, but he would be immensely proud to see Strider starting a new chapter at Texas A&M. The Sartor family sacrificed a great deal for our nation. They've overcome tragedy with many fears, but incredible courage. It's our time to answer the call here at home to come alongside Gold Star families like theirs. While the tragic loss of brave men and women on the battlefield has greatly diminished today, after 2 decades of continuous combat, our Special Operations Forces also have to train for the toughest missions, and training for those toughest missions is inherently dangerous. The second warrior I want to highlight tonight is Navy Commander Brian Bourgeois, who led SEAL Team 8, one of our Navy SEAL elite teams, a group of nearly 200 Navy SEALs that he was selected to command. This past December, Brian was training stateside, shoulder to shoulder with his fellow SEALs that were underneath his command, as he was preparing them for our nation's most demanding missions overseas. This time, Brian was training his unit to deploy to Somalia and the Horn of Africa. And as he conducted fast rope training from a hovering helicopter onto a building rooftop, he tragically fell. During his 20 years in uniform, Brian had led Navy SEALs during countless missions overseas, in Iraq, in East Africa, and elsewhere. But that night in Virginia, on top of that rooftop, inside that helicopter, changed his family's life forever. Brian was an outstanding, inspirational leader. Teammates said that he was so friendly that he could, quote, make friends with the light post. As a 4-year member of the varsity football team at the Naval Academy, he was also an exceptional athlete. Brian's career as a Navy SEAL was so successful that he had earned the rare privilege of commanding that SEAL team. In fact, 2 days ago, I was visiting the Naval Academy. I met a SEAL candidate and football player who had received SEAL Team 8 patch from Brian himself prior to Brian's death. Brian left such an impression that the midshipman wore that patch on his uniform after Brian's death as a tribute in the Army-Navy football game that took place 4 days later. Like Ryan Sartor, Brian was an elite warrior, but at home, he was an incredible father and a loving husband. His wife Megan and their 5 children had to face new reality without them. His oldest son Barrett, himself a standout baseball team, recalled Dad playing catch with him, regularly playing late into the evenings. Now tragedy struck during Barrett's freshman year at Washington and Lee University, and he faced uncertainty. And he faced life without his role model. Barrett, his mother, Megan, and his younger brother and sisters endured profound sacrifice for the nation. But they are inspiring examples of courage. Just 4 days after Brian's tragic accident, as I mentioned, Navy played Army in their annual rivalry game. In an unprecedented move, Navy's football coach allowed Brian with Megan to talk to the team before the game. He never allowed anybody to talk to the team in the locker room before the game. Megan's only request, 3 words: win for Brian. Win for Brian. And they did. And I'm a proud West Point grad. I cheer for Navy 364 days a year. I will admit that. And I'm a former commandant. But for a team, and if you remember the game, there were some miracles in that game. And the team rallied for our fallen. That, I think all of us can cheer for, to rally for our fallen. For Gold Star families like the Bourgeois, we must rally behind them, answering the call here at home to support these families that are left behind. And I purposely showed these pictures, and I purposely used their names today so you can say their names over and over, so you can see the photos of them, so we can never forget and we can remember. So as I close here tonight, I promised I would end with a challenge. Leaders like Ryan Sartor and Brian Bourgeois would have succeeded in whatever path they chose. They could have been managing directors, COOs, CFOs, and even CEOs in some of the biggest companies across America. But instead, they all chose to defend our freedom, undertaking the most elite, demanding roles in our special operations community. But you know who didn't get the vote? Their kids. Their kids. I think about my own 2 children. I made a choice to serve. My wife, in a moment of weakness, decided to marry me. That's a true story. But our 2 kids never got a choice. They've dealt with countless moves, with time away, with missing their dad. But I was fortunate to come home. And I'm fortunate to stand on this stage and talk about our warriors. But for our Gold Star families, part of the freedom we cherish is a product of their sacrifice, serving alongside their mother or father. My challenge tonight is to engage those Gold Star family members that are here with us. Hear their stories. I promise you'll come away encouraged and inspired. They are the patriots that we recognize tonight. Let's answer that call to come alongside them here stateside. And thanks for allowing me to share this exceptional evening with you. Please help keep our 6,000 men and women that are overseas in your thoughts and prayers. And thank you for caring for our Gold Star families. You're making a difference. Thank you very much.